Do you remember the day you got a promotion, started a new job, or got that raise you were waiting for? That deep sense of relief you felt at that moment? You probably said to yourself, finally, finally I can breathe. Finally I can put money aside. That financial stress is over now. At that moment, you were sure your life would change. But then something strange, insidious, and almost mathematically impossible happened. 6 months, maybe a year passed. And one morning when you looked at your bank account, that familiar pain stabbed at your stomach. You were earning more money, maybe twice as much as before, but the amount of money left in your account at the end of the month was exactly the same as the amount left when you were working with half a salary. In fact, maybe it was less. You are in a more luxurious car, you are in a better house, you are eating more expensive meals, but the feeling of financial security, it still doesn't exist. In fact, the fear of losing has increased even more because you now have a more expensive life to lose. If this sounds familiar to you, you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not going crazy. You are in the biggest and most dangerous trap of the modern economy, the middle class trap. In the financial world, this is called Henry. High earner, not rich yet. Today, we will talk about why you still feel broke no matter how much you earn, how the system hacks your brain to keep you on this treadmill, and most importantly, the single and radical move you need to make to break this cycle. Welcome. This is Wealth Architecture. Most people think that the reason for financial failure is insufficient income. They say, if I earned 5,000 liras more a month, everything would be solved. But this is a big lie. The problem is not your income. The problem is a software error in your brain. This error has a name: Parkinson's Law. Historian Cyril Northcote Parkinson noticed something strange in 1955 while working on bureaucracy. Work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. In other words, if you give yourself 2 hours to write a report, it will be finished in 2 hours. If you give yourself 2 weeks, it will take 2 weeks. But what is truly frightening is what this law does when applied to money. Expenses always increase to meet income. Think of a tube of toothpaste. How are you when you buy a new tube? Carefree. You put plenty on the brush. You don't care if it falls in the sink because you have abundance. But what happens when you get to the end of the tube? You suddenly turn into a construction engineer. You bend the tube, press on the edge, and struggle to get that last bit out because resources are scarce. This is how your brain treats the money that enters your bank account. When you see money in your account, your brain gives an abundance signal and opens the spending taps. When you get a raise instead of saving that money, you expand your definition of need. Eating at home used to be normal. Now ordering out is a need. Formerly, that 2015 model car was serving your needs. Now that SUV, for which you pay a 20,000 lira installment per month for security and prestige, has become a necessity. Your income increased, but the gap, that is, the gap between your income and expenses, did not increase. In fact, it narrowed. That's why even doctors and lawyers who receive six-figure salaries may not be able to make ends meet. They are not rich. They're just like high turnover but zero profit businesses. So, how does the system trap you in this trap? The answer is simple: by using the concept of normal as a weapon. Let me give you a secret. In 2025, being a normal American or European means financial suicide. Let's look at the statistics. The average person has a car payment of over $600, which is around 20,000 TL. Credit card debts are at record levels. 60% of people, 1. They have to borrow money in an emergency situation of $0. In other words, when you go out and stop someone at random, that person's normal life is actually an illusion financed by debt. When you try to keep up with this normal, that is, when you try to live at the standard of your friends, your colleagues, you are actually jumping down their financial cliff. The clearest place you can see this is cars. Car payments are the silent killer that insidiously destroys the wealth of the middle class. Most people don't see the car as a means of transportation. They see it as a symbol of success. They go to the dealer, and the salesperson asks them that magic question: how much can you pay monthly? This question is a litmus test for financial ignorance, because the monthly payment hides the total cost. They sell you a loan that will last 7 years, even 8 years. Every month you bury 15%, 20% of your salary in a pile of metal that loses value the moment you turn the contact, rusts, and ages. Let's do the math. If instead of giving 25,000 TL a month, that is approximately $700, to a car loan, you bought a reliable 8-year-old Toyota and invested that installment money in the stock market with an 8% return, what would happen? 30 years later, that car payment would turn into a fortune of approximately $1 million. So, the real cost of that luxury car is not the sticker price. The real cost is your burned $1 million retirement fund. The man with the luxury car standing next to you in traffic is not rich. He is someone who has sacrificed his future freedom for his present ego. At this point, I feel like I hear you saying, "But I work so hard, I deserve it." Of course you deserve it. But what? Slavery or freedom? A luxurious prison is still a prison. The success story that the system sells you is actually designed to make you more dependent on the system. If you raise your living standards when your salary increases, you will have put on golden handcuffs. Even if you start to hate your job, you cannot leave. Because the mortgage on that expensive house, the installment on that luxury car, and the children's private school expenses depend on that salary. Your boss knows this. Your bank knows this. And this fear keeps you docile. So, where's the way out? How will we break this cycle? The solution is the invisible time strategy. This strategy does not require willpower. It only requires you to be disciplined once, at a single moment of decision. When you get your next raise or earn extra income, there is only one thing you need to do. Destroy that money. Yes, you heard it wrong. Delete that money from your financial life. On the day the raise amount is credited to your account, direct that difference directly to your investment account with an automatic instruction. Freeze your standard of living at your old salary. If you were living with 40,000 TL and your salary became 50,000 TL, you should still continue to live like someone who earns 40,000 TL. That 10,000 TL in between is not yours. That money is the freedom fee of future you. That money is your fuck off money. If you don't see this money, you can't spend it. You deliberately keep the toothpaste tube halfway. Why is it hard to do this? Because you have to risk losing the status game. While your friends are on vacation in Bali, you will be camping. While they are buying new model phones, you will continue to use your phone with a cracked screen. When viewed from the outside, you will appear left behind. And this will hurt your ego. But here is the big secret. The moment you understand the difference between looking rich and being rich is the moment you win the game. Looking rich is spending money. Being rich is having money. The two cannot happen at the same time. There is a reason why Mark Zuckerberg wears the same t-shirt every day and Warren Buffett lives in the house he bought in 1958. They are masters of stealth wealth. They don't have to prove anything to anyone because their bank accounts give them the approval they need. The moment you stop caring what others think, the hole in your wallet closes. Look, the biggest asset of your life is not your income. Your biggest asset is that gap between your income and your expenses. That is, the gap. Wealth accumulates in that gap. If you earn 100,000 TL a month and 100, if you are spending 000 TL, you are financially poorer than someone who earns 10,000 TL a month and spends 5,000 TL, because the second one has a gap, meaning maneuverability, accumulation power, and most importantly, the power to buy time. You are only the financier of an expensive life. Now, I am giving you an action plan. When you go home tonight, take out your expenses for the last 3 months and ask yourself this ruthless question. Which of these expenses did I make because I really needed them? And which ones did I make because I thought I deserved them or to appear normal to others? Collect those subscriptions, those takeout meals, those unnecessary updates. The resulting figure is the monthly installment of your freedom. Save that money today and direct it towards your first 100,000 goal. Remember, accumulating the first 100,000 is like hell. Gravity works against you. Everything is slow. You can't see the results. But when you cross that threshold, when you start turning those invisible times into investments and rolling the snowball, math turns to your side. Compound interest kicks in. Money turns into a worker working for you. And one morning you wake up, you realize that you don't have to go to work. Because you refuse to be normal, you didn't play the status game, and you built your own fortune with your own rules. The choice is yours. Either you will appear like everyone else and secretly go bankrupt, or you will ride in a car that nobody cares about and secretly become a millionaire. I chose the latter. What about you?